Hello guys, today in this video we'll be seeing the SQL Basics Part 2. So we will be covering up aggregate functions with a live demo on the SQL Server. So let's move on. So what are the things which we'll be covering in this video? So we will have a overlook on the aggregate functions. We'll be seeing what is each and every function in detail. There are 5 functions: count, sum, average, min, max. So all these functions we'll be looking into in detail, and we'll be also checking out the function ISNULL and GROUP BY operators. Okay, so what is an aggregate function? Aggregate function is something which performs a calculation and returns a single value as an output. So what are the functions? Just count, sum, average, min and max. These are the 5 functions which are called as aggregate functions in an SQL. So let's see in detail on each and every functions now. So what is how to do a count function? So it's a simple count followed by a column name within brackets inside the select statement. So these functions you can use on a select statement only. Okay, and we'll see a live example. So select count of student ID from student. So I have already created a student table, so I'll just explain you that in detail now. Okay, how to do a count function. Let us open SQL Server Management Studio. So I'm opening the SQL Server Management Studio. So those who have not seen how to open, means how to install this, I will provide the link in the description. You can just have a look at that video for SQL Server installation and SQL Server Management Studio. So I'm just connecting to the database. So it's connected now. So I'm just clicking a new query. So I'm selecting my DB, Nivas_DB. So if you have gone through my previous videos, you will come to know how to create the database like this. Okay, so now I'll just copy paste drop table. Okay, so I'm dropping the previous table which I have created. Okay, so that we can start afresh. So I've dropped it. Okay, now I'm creating a new table called student. So we will be doing all this aggregate functions using this student table only. Okay, so we have 5 columns. Okay, now previously we had 3 columns in the previous videos for student table. Now we have 5 columns: student ID, student name, department, student age and overall marks. So 2 of them are specified as not null, one primary key is there for student ID, and student age and overall marks are the numeric fields which which will have values. Okay, so I'm executing this. That's executed. Now just to save in the time, okay, I'm just copying insert statements as well. So I'll provide all these statements so that you can do it by yourself on your machine or your practice area. So instead I have inserted some 8 values. Okay, so which has student details as a database. Okay, so let us quickly start the select statement. Okay, select. Now we just saw count. Okay, so count of student ID. So basically I want to count the number of student in the student table. So if I count, the total count is 8. So let's just cross check it whether it is right. See, SQL is not a case sensitive, so unless and otherwise you quote something in the string, otherwise it is not a case sensitive language. Okay, so you can use, I can use from also from in a normal case, no issues. Student also is normal. So okay, so unless you specify something in single quotes, other things are non-case sensitive. Okay, So all the 8 records have been displayed here, so that means our count is correct. So let us do the same thing on the overall marks field. So overall marks field, it is giving a count of 7. Why is it so? Because there is a null value in the database in the table, so it did not count this particular record, so which is a wrong, right? So for to have a proper count, we can use 1 instead of the field. So this will by default count the row count rather than counting the values of the row. Okay, so now it will be 8. So irrespective of it has null or value, you will get a proper count on the table when you use 1. Okay, so now moving on to the next one. The next is a ISNULL function. Why I have incorporated this ISNULL function is, just now we saw a null value. So to tackle that inside the aggregate function, you need a ISNULL function. So I'll put a detailed video on null functions. There are various null functions in SQL which you can use. But at the moment, for tackling the null value inside the aggregate function, I have provided this ISNULL function. So let us see what is the syntax of this. So select ISNULL column name in which the column is null, is having a null value. You have to specify that column, and what would be the value if it is null, that you have to specify here. So if a particular row is having a null value on a specific column which you have specified, it will be replaced with this column value. Say for example, I'm using is null on overall marks. So there was a null column which will be replaced with this 60. Okay, so let's see how this works. So now I'm placing is null. Okay, overall marks comma 60. So now if I select this, see the last column is 60. To be exactly precise, I'll select this and then I'll place all the column names here so that you can easily identify which column has been replaced. So student ID, I'm just selecting all the columns. Department, student, age, and then overall marks is already there. So now I'm just selecting all the fields and only replacing is null for on overall marks as 60. So now this null should be replaced with this 60, right? So there are two statements, so you need to select and then execute, otherwise it will execute all the statements in this window. Okay, redo. Okay, so here see it has replaced with 60. So previously this was null, still it is null in the actual table, but while fetching it will replace that null value into 60. So you can give any value as per your wish and as per the constraints which are there on the database for this particular table. So it's up to you what number you need to specify for this particular null value. So why I have introduced this is, so just now we were checking the count. Okay, so select count on the overall marks. This is having a null value, right? So if I count from this table, it will only give 7. So how to overcome this, that's why we are introducing isNull. So now I'm putting a isNull value. So I'm placing something as 60. It's the null value is 60. Now I'm getting a value where it is a null. So now the count is 8. So it does count, the count is proper. So just be sure when you do a count, in the column should not have any null values. If you are not sure, just use a null condition, isNull function, so that you can straight away get a proper count, or else use straight away count of 1. That is a much better way than using the column name. Okay, let's jump on to the next one. Next is a sum function. So we just now we saw count function. Now what is a sum function? Sum function just sums all the values in that particular column uh, for that select statement. So whatever you are selecting, the number of whatever number of rows which it is returning, it will just do a sum. So you can have where clauses also. So I'll just show. So this is a count function, so we'll just replace with a sum. Okay, now it will, so before doing this we will have a plain sum of overall marks from student. So I'm just selecting that statement and oh my, okay, execute it. Okay, so it is 595.70, but it is only summing the values which are not null. So now we will include a ISNULL condition also, ISNULL function also inside the sum. So what it does, let's see. So if you see, it is 655.70. Now it has added that 60 also inside this sum. So even though it had a null value, it had assigned a number, means mark, for that particular student which was having a null value. Okay, so let us see. So it is still null only, but it will do a is null conversion, means a null conversion into a value, and then it will do a sum function. So you can use it anywhere inside the query wherever you feel it the null has to be handled. That is the main functionality of a is null function. Okay, so let's I'll just update this, okay, so that we don't have this null anymore. I'll just copy it from my update statement which I already written. I'll give all these statements so that you can use it for your purpose. So I'm just updating the last record. So where student id equals to 1007. So I'm updating the Jim's record as 75.2. Okay. Now if you see, I'm just selecting start from student. Okay. Sometimes my mouse doesn't work properly. Okay. Okay. Now the Jim's record is also updated. Okay. So now we don't have any more null values. So now if you see the sum, it will be 670.90 since I've updated as 75.2 instead of 60. So let's move on to the next one. This is how sum works. So here now we are seeing average function. So average is just the same thing, same select statement. Only thing is you need to put a AVG function instead of sum. So what it will do, it will sum up all the columns, means all the records which is there, and it will divide by that many number of rows which are present. So let's see that. So now I will put AVG. Okay, so average of all the marks, so 83.862500 is the average of all the marks which is present in the student table. So this is one of the aggregate functions. So here also you can use ISNULL inside this if you have any null value. So for example, I can do an average on student age also. That is also a number field. So for all these aggregate functions you need a numeric column. Just be ensured that you are using a numeric column. Okay, so now the average age is 20.15125. Okay, so you can put a alias. Okay, so I'll put it as age. So this will be, instead of no column name, it will print the column as age, column name as age. So you can do for any function, so you can put any column alias for any of the column which you want. Okay, so you can put it in double quotes if you have any space in the column name, age in years. Okay, like this. So it will automatically assign. You can put the alias as the alias name what you wanted to do. Okay, so it will print like age in years. So this is the alias. for the column which we are doing. So AVG does the job like it will sum up and it will divide by the number of rows. So it has done the average. So let's move on to the next function. Next is a min function. So min is nothing but minimum of that particular column. Okay, so let's see how it works. I have provided a example of minimum of overall marks. Let's see. So let's use the same query and use minimum. Okay, minimum of that student. So the minimum age is 19 years. Let's check it by ourselves. Yes, it is 19. All others are 20 and 21. So 19 is the minimum age. So this is how minimum function works. Next is a max function. So opposite to the min, it is a maximum. So it will find the maximum value of that particular column. So max of column name from that table. So we'll use overall marks or age, whatever numeric function you want to do. In this table we have two numeric fields, so you can do all these aggregate functions on either of these two columns. Okay, so I'll do max of student age. So now the maximum years is 21. Okay, so yes, the maximum age group of the student is 21, not beyond that nobody is there. Okay, similarly for in this you can give to overall marks. So here you can specify the column name as marks. So let's see, 92.80 is the maximum mark. If you see the database, yes, 92 is the maximum. 92.40 is there, but 92.80 is the maximum. So it should be 92.80. 92.80. Okay, so like this you can use all the aggregate functions. So we have seen all the 5 aggregate functions along with the ISNULL function. Okay, so let's see what is the next one. So next one is a group by function. So group by what does this group by function does? So group by function basically groups the values. Okay, so always the aggregate function is accompanied by group by function if you need it. Okay, if you don't use a group by function, it will simply give a single row output. If you use a group by function, it will just group it and it will display the aggregate function which you have specified in the select statement. For example, I want to know what is the maximum mark on each department stored by a student. Okay, so for which so first let's see the syntax. Syntax is nothing but you need to specify the column name, then comma the aggregate function which you want to perform. Okay, so I've performed a max of column 2. So this column and this column should be different, otherwise it will work but it doesn't make any sense. Okay, from table name and then group by this column which you have specified needs to be specified here. So whatever column you are selecting here has to be specified here, and this has to be there. Okay, to for the group by 2 function you need one aggregate function at least. Okay, so here what I have done is I wanted a group with segregation of department wise maximum marks. So this query specifically returns department wise maximum marks scored by the students. Okay, so how, let's see. So this is how you use a group by function. So I have used department. Okay, so I have selected department comma max of overall marks as marks. This is the column alias for this max of marks, max of overall marks from student group by department. So let's see what it returns. So see, you can see the department wise maximum marks scored by each student, each department. So I'll just select these two statements and execute. You'll see the output. Okay, so when selecting these two statements at this stretch and executing it, it will show both the outputs. Okay, this is the advantage of using a SQL Server Management Studio. So with this you can easily compare the results. That's why I've executed both the statements. Okay, so mechanical has a maximum mark of 76. Let us see whether it's correct. So mechanical has 76 and 75.20. So maximum mark is 76. Similarly, IT has 92.80. Let's see, IT has 86.40 and 92.80. So maximum mark is 92.80. So similarly you can use minimum also. Let us execute. See, mechanical has 75.20, whereas this is the correct one. Okay, so here also it has come correct. That means minimum function has worked correct. If you want to count the students in each department, you can use count function like this. So it has counted. Okay, now mechanical has 3 students here, so it's correct. Similarly, IT has 2 students, it has printed correct. And other departments are having one student each. So guys, this is how you use a group by function. So group by function plays a major role along with the aggregate functions. Okay, so you can use aggregate without using the group by function, but with group by it plays a meaningful output. Okay, so this solves lot of queries, lot of reports which you wanted. So those things are done using aggregate function and group by function. So that gives a good view of the entire table data. Okay guys, that's all for this video. If you like this video, just press like and subscribe to the channel to watch more videos like this. Okay, thank you, thanks for watching.